Hello, and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow and become a better version of yourself. My name is Mark Allen, and together with my friend Adam, we share thoughts and ideas from the books that we read and how they enhance our personal growth and development. We also host other readers and leaders. We learn from their experiences through our discussions. Our episodes air every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening in, and let's grow together. Unbounded Growth. Hello and welcome back to Unbounded Growth. It's a great Wednesday and I'm excited to be here. Today, my name is Mark Allen and I'm your host. I'll be recording today alone. My co-host and friend Adam Eritier Shabindo is not here with me today. He's also been coming down with a cold as soon as I started feeling well and I'm not coughing as much as I was in the last few weeks. Then Adam started feeling bad, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't record yesterday. We didn't hear yesterday, but our goal was to not miss a week until at least the end of the season, where we take a few weeks off and come back with much more strength. We didn't want to record yesterday with all these sicknesses. We decided to do it today, and Adam was still not feeling well, but hopefully next week he'll be feeling better. Please keep him in your prayers the same way you did with me, and I really appreciate that. Another announcement is that after this third today, so today I'll be finishing up with the production level, and next week when Adam is back, we talk about reproduction and then Pinnacle, and then at the end we will have a special guest. We already recorded the episode with Lantage Woods, where she tell us a little bit about education. She tell us about scholarships, about some harsh realities, especially in minorities, that people living in the United States and around the world are not taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there to educate themselves, to learn better, or even to read. And some of the techniques that she's learned and a lot of things that she's gone through to learn to be where she is right now. We recorded a wonderful episode, so that will be coming up at the end of this season. It'll be the very last episode in this season, and then we'll be moving on. Other than that, I'm doing great. We're still here on About the Growth, and as Adam has mentioned a few times already, there's a leadership conference that we are planning toward the end of the year. There's also more details to come to that. All right, let's dive into it. Today will certainly be a much shorter episode. And what we are going to do, we are going to focus more on the downside of the production level. And I wanted Adam to be here so that we can both talk about reproduction, because that's one thing we both actively be working on and learning about how to reproduce leaders. It is a step higher. And last week we mentioned that, when you stop on the production level, you can call yourself a leader. You can earn the badge of saying that I'm a great leader. If you push teams to produce, if you've pushed your teams to win, you've helped people around you to achieve whatever goals that they want. And leadership is all about team. It's not about yourself. If you achieve great things by yourself, yeah, you may be a great employee, you may be a great person, but in order for you to be a great leader, you need to help teams win. And on the production level, that's what we learn. We learn how to help teams win on the production level. When we go to the reproduction level, is to teach teams to win without you. So whether you're there or not, then you get to the reproduction level. You start reproducing leaders that are like you. When we get to that level, we learn about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 principle, that states that 20% of the work usually results for 80% of 20% of the effort usually amounts for 80% of the results that we get. And we will learn how to use that principle to make better teams. And great leaders around the world have used the same principles for years. If we even look at the life of the Lord Jesus Christ, who's one of the greatest leaders, whether you're religious or not, we all agree that he was one of the greatest leaders to ever do it. That he focused his attention on 12 disciples that built out everything that we know today that people call the church. And we learned a lot about that, about how to become reproductive. But today, we still focus on the production level. Last week, we talked a lot about the upside of the production level. We discussed a lot of things, and we talked about the type of team players that you have, the momentum takers, the momentum breakers, and the momentum makers. And we say that if you want to build a team, if you have an opportunity to build a team, you want to focus on momentum makers. Don't spend too much time focusing on momentum breakers, because those people will come and bring the morale of the team down. They will come discourage people. And sometimes it's hard to win as a team when the morale of your team is down. But today, we now talk about the downside of production level. As John Maxwell stated, every level has some upside and some downside. And there's some behaviors as well you want to adopt on some level. Now, the downside of every level of leadership, the higher you go on the ladder, when you move from position to permission, you have less downside than you have upside. When you move from permission to production, the downside keep on reducing. And when you get to the pinnacle level, you have less downside than you do have when you're on the position level. So a few downside here, and this will be the focus of this episode. And next episode, we talk about reproduction, as I've already stated. The first downside that John Maxwell mentions here is that being productive can make you think you are a leader while you're not. Being productive can make you think you are a leader while you are not. And that is so true. The reason why I say that is so true is because, and I've seen companies making this mistake before, simply because a person is productive doesn't make that person a leader. I've stated this before. Leadership isn't about you. Leadership is about others. How do you help others win? How do you bring a team to do things that are necessary for that team to win and perform? And that's why I've always believed that you don't need to be an expert in a certain area in order to lead it. I'll say that again. You do not need to be an expert in a certain area or a certain domain in order for you to lead it. Can someone lead the army without understanding the ins and outs of the army? Yes and no. Sometimes you need to have some type of knowledge about what you're leading, about the department or whatever thing that you're leading. But it's not necessary, or it's not mandatory for you to have the knowledge about that field in order to lead the field. Sometimes you just need to be surrounded with the right people. You just need to build the right team. And once you've built the right team, if you can help that team perform and you can help that team win, that makes you a leader. But if you are just a staler who just knows who's perfect at your job and you know what to do and you can actually do everything yourself, you're a producer, but you're probably not a leader. And John Maxwell talks about this. He says leadership is defined not by what a person does for himself, but what a person does with and for others. It's measured by what the entire group accomplishes, not by the individual effort of the person in charge. I've actually been a victim of this before, and I've seen a lot of people that have led before me also falling to this trap here. Now, here's the trap. You're leading a team of 5-10 people, but you do 90% of the work. And of course, you give to your team all the credit and everything. Or there's only one person in the team that does all the work. And all the team members are not learning. They're not growing. They're not becoming any better. But you keep on winning because you are, as a person, you are part of the team. Can the team win without you? When you have a sick day, can the team perform without you? And that's how sometimes I encourage people to measure their leadership. How well can the team perform when you're not there? How well can people around you work when you're not there? And you can see that there's a lot of overlap between the production and the reproduction level. I believe every great productive leader become to some extent a good reproductive leader. Every great productive leader to some extent start passing on what he's learned and what he does to other people. Because here's the trick about teamwork. It's called team because you cannot do all the work by yourself. And if you can't do all the work by yourself, you have two choices. Either to bring in people that are good at what they do and that will compensate for your weaknesses, that will compensate for the things that you cannot do as a person. You need to build a team around build a team around you that can do the work that you cannot do. And give them the resources and everything they need to perform and to become the best they can be, or you work by yourself and do 90% of everybody's job. The only problem is if you work by yourself, when you are not there, your team cannot perform. And great producing leaders make sure that their team can still perform even when they are not there. All right. The second thing that John Maxwell says here in the first sub point of being productive can make you think you're a leader when you're not. He says that organizations all over the world, and I've talked about this again and again, organizations all over the world make the mistake of putting high producers into leadership positions only to watch them fail to lead well. Now, this may be a shocker for a lot of people, but I believe this firmly. The top producer in your organization sometimes is not the leader. Sometimes you can have someone who's not the top producer, but knows how to bring people together and help teams win. Again, leadership is not about an individual. Leadership is about a team. And if a team cannot win without a leader, if a leader cannot take the team to a winning championship or to winning some games or to winning in a company, to producing, if the leader is incapable of doing that, then that person is not qualified for a leader. You leave the person in whatever position they are. And even I've seen this in the tech industry where simply because someone is a great tech and can write great code and can be a great software engineer, we tend to say, hey, this person will be a good fit for a position in leadership. They may or they may not. If they are not, then that will handicap your team. That will actually slow you down, and that may actually bring the morale down of the entire team. Patrick Lencioni wrote this book, The Five Levels, The Five Dysfunction of a Teamwork. The Five Dysfunction of a Team. I think that's the title of the book. And in that book, he explains about this lady that became the CEO of a company. She didn't have a lot of background in software engineering, but she knew how to bring people together. She knew how to help teams perform. And she knew how to create direct reports where people were reporting to her and to have information to stay on top of a game. She said that she had learned to fire people when they are not a good fit for the team. Because in a previous organization, instead of firing someone, she had actually promoted someone simply because the person was a great producer, but a terrible leader. And the way the person was talking to out of his employees, almost everybody in that department started quitting. And the caveat to it was that when she reported to her boss and her boss was wondering, why was this team doing great and this person was producing well, but since you promoted them, they are slacking and this and that, the person couldn't handle the pressure of leadership. He still wanted to be the top producer and manage a team at the same time. And when you become a leader, it's not about you. The spotlight is not on you anymore. So the second thing here, it says that productive leaders feel a heavy weight of responsibility for results. John Maxwell said that in an organization, the responsibility for result rests with the leader. That's just a straight up reality. No leader, however great, can long continue unless he wins victories. Now, we talked about the way corporate is structured, or the way we view leadership as just human beings. In primitive cultures, when people were surrounding or gathering themselves around a leader, was because that leader was probably capable of defending them, was probably capable of carrying out some duties that others could not do, was capable of bringing people together. That's why you see that in history, if you read ancient history like the Greek history or the Roman Empire history, there was actually some threats that they were looking for in a leader. And until today, those stereotypes still exist in us. We tend to believe that leaders, are naturally tall. Leaders are naturally loud, where everybody can hear them. Why did people start with so preconceived notions until they got to the point where this is just some stereotype we carry in our head? It's because back in the days when things were physical, when people had to fight, the taller, the strong had more chances of winning, and people who wanted to be around the winning team felt more comfortable being around someone who could fight. But those stereotypes are no longer true. They are no longer true. I've seen some very short people that do great things and scare the whole world. I've seen some tall people that cannot do much. And I've seen the contrary. I've seen some tall people doing some great stuff. So leadership should not even be attached to your physical appearance. It's not the color of your skin, it's not the way you look, it's not the way you talk, it's not the way. There are certain things that do not matter today when it comes to leadership. But one thing that will always be true as far as leadership is concerned in every organization, leaders are expected to produce results. If a leader takes over a department or a leader takes over a team, a leader takes over a certain thing, they expect the leader to produce results and to win. And the problem is when the leader doesn't know how to balance the load of his work or to utilize the team around him, that pressure starts falling on the leader. And whether you like it or not, as a leader, you will always be responsible for results. The third thing here, John Maxwell said, is the downside of leadership. So the second downside of leadership is that you're expected to produce. The company counts on you to produce results. Thirdly, here say production leadership requires making difficult decisions. I like what T-Bone here says. He said, being willing to make decisions, that's the most important quality in a good leader. Now, as a leader, just say that the company expects results from you. That's just a given. Now, in order to produce results, you have to make decisions. And decisions are kind of like the everyday requirement for every leader. A leader is called to make decisions. You can escape everything in leadership. The one thing you cannot escape is making the final decision, especially for your team or for yourself or for everybody that performs. And decisions sometimes can be as easy as which car will the company buy? Will the company buy a blue truck or a white truck? Those can be easy decisions. Or they can be as tough as, will I let this employee go so that the team can perform better? Because let's face it, sometimes people within your team or around your organization or your nonprofit or the team that you're building, sometimes you may have slackers, people who are not producing results. And when you attach a salary, it's no longer just a person that you are letting go. You are letting go a person who probably doesn't have a lot of savings, who probably doesn't have a lot of things, but you're doing it for the good of the team. Can those be tough decisions? Yes. As a leader, you have to make the tough conversation, have tough conversations with people. And I think one of the things that I struggled the most with, and Adam, I'll share this last time as well, because he struggled with it as well, is having those candid conversation. Getting to a point where you just need to sit with someone and tell them the truth, the way it's supposed to be told. It's more difficult when you're a people person and you rely more on encouragement, on helping others feel better, on improving others. As my background goes, the struggles that I've been through as a person, in my education and even just learning stuff, I feel a lot compassionate towards people. I want everybody to succeed. I want to raise people to a level where they can become better as leaders. But to be honest, sometimes they just don't meet the requirements that are given to you, especially when you don't make the rules, especially when you don't make the final decisions, especially when there's some pressure on top of you. Even when there's not that pressure, sometimes the people that you're leading are simply not a good fit for the team that you're leading. And they may love their job, they may love what they're doing, they may love being around other people. But if they're not producing, at some point you have to make a decision on whether you let them go, and if you have more power, maybe reassign them to a place where they fit better. Budget. Those are tough decisions you have to make. When you have to let go of some employees, when you have to cut some budget and you can no longer afford certain things because your company is not making enough money, when you have to reduce salaries of people, those are decisions as leaders on a production level have to make. If the company have to meet numbers, if the company have to do certain things, and because of certain expenses, the company cannot meet the numbers, it's your decision as a leader to cut the budget so the company can make the numbers. And those are some decisions that sometimes we think are easy for the people who make those decisions. But some decisions will keep you awake all night. I've stayed awake all night, and some people don't struggle with this. I understand some people don't struggle with this. Sometimes I wish I was like them, where our friend David Friedman said if there's one thing he could change in his life, would be to have honest conversation with people early instead of letting some of the problems drag for months without saying a thing. And by the time you say it, you are either too pissed off or too tired, or there's just something that's not helping you make a healthy decision for the person at that particular time. So it's important to put that into consideration every time you are dealing with people. The decisions that you have to make sometimes are going to be difficult. That's the one downside of leadership as well. John Maxwell said that I regret the decisions that I failed to make more than I do the wrong decisions that I made. The other thing that I've also noticed when it comes to decision making is that it's not that we make the wrong decision, it's just that we make no decisions. Now, wrong decisions to me are a lot better than no decisions at all. Because when you take no decisions, you leave the whole world, you give the whole world space to think and make assumptions and do whatever they want to do. If you don't tell people at what time they should show up for work, then everybody show up at the time they want to show up. Even if this has been a culture in your company, and now if it's hurting your production, you have to make a decision. And if you don't make a decision, then people decide for themselves. It comes the same way with education. It comes with your children, your spouses, your friends. Every time you don't make a decision, people will make that decision for you. And I always like to say that if you don't decide how you're going to spend your time, and guess who will? And Mark Zuckerberg will decide how you're going to spend your time. The TikTok CEO will decide how you're going to spend your time. If you don't decide how to spend your time, everybody will call you and tell you, hey, can you come help me and do this and that? Simply because you're not making that decision. It's much better to make the wrong decision than to make no decision at all. To me, no decision, that's me. To me, no decision is always wrong. Better make a wrong decision than to make no decision at all. Now, the last point here that John Maxwell says, the downside of production, is that production leadership demands continual attention to level 2. We've said this before. You cannot be a productive leader unless people have given you the permission to lead them. You can try. You can try. There's definitely nothing wrong with trying to be a productive leader while people haven't given you the permission to lead them. The only problem is you don't have the support of the people. And a lot of people say, I don't need the support of people. I can make them produce, especially if I'm holding them on a paycheck, on this and that, and I'm their manager. I can make them do whatever they want to do. And I've seen some people being very harsh, using some terrible words, calling their subordinate or employees like lazy or things of that nature, and thinking that we should take more decisions than this and that. Now, here's the reality. Have you seen that? Have you seen in some companies when the manager is fired, everybody's happy, or the company is producing a lot better? Or have you seen in some places where a supervisor is let go, it's like everybody around them are rejoicing? It's like people no longer work to help you succeed. They only work to wait until you fail. Every time you start neglecting level 2 leadership so that you can make your team produce more, level 2 comes back to you and bites you in the back. So it's important to keep a balance between your permission on level 2, your relationships with your employees, and your production. Now, here's the twist, right? In some companies, some people are hired to produce results. Here's the reality. You get into a company, the company is going downhill, and they tell you, okay, we are hiring this manager or this CIO because they've had experience with things like this, and we want to turn this company around within the next 3 months. If the person does not succeed, then we're going bankrupt or the companies will be dead by then. You have a lot of pressure to produce. But while you are trying to produce, while you are creating strategies to produce, you need to work on both creating the strategies to produce and also building your relationship with people. Because the only way you succeed with people is when you work with people. If you try to succeed with people by treating them like machines, by treating them without any respect, without any consideration for their lives, for their families, or for everything that they may be going through, for their mental health and things of that nature, every time the people have an opportunity to screw you up, they will. And sometimes we think, if you leave, someone else will come. And sometimes people that come to you are not the type of people that can produce results, are not the type of people. And you may end up creating this culture where the turnover is just too high. Have you seen those companies where employees? There's a company that I was applying for at some point, and I got to deny their offer. And one of the reasons why I denied it was because their turnover was way too high. It was way too high. I didn't know what was going on in the company. Of course, granted that I was given two different offers, and one of them was much better. But when I was asking around and talking to some friends that had worked at that company before, the turnover of that company was just way too high. And I was asking myself, why is it that every person that works in this company quits within a year or less? And to me, that was already a red flag. And for anybody applying out there, if there's a company that has such a high turnover, ask yourself the question, why did the person before me quit their job? And why would the person before them quit their job? And if all of them only stayed at your job for 8 months, for a year, for 6 months, there may be something going on in there that you may not be aware. I'm not saying that all the companies where people, often quit and stuff like that always have something wrong going on in there. No, but it's a red flag that you need to look into. As we talked about, I think I've mentioned this before, people don't quit jobs. People do quit people. So as a leader, if you want to build a winning team, a productive team, make sure you are always paying attention to level 2. I've always believed that you actually can lead without being a level 1 leader. You can lead without a formal title or position. You can lead without being called Mr. Manager. You can lead without being called Mr. Director. You can lead as long as you have influence on people, which is level 2. You've built those relationships and you have influence on people, and you can help people produce results. You don't need a title to do that. It's just your dedication. It's the way you build relationships. And of course, some companies are very structural, are very structured, like the army. You don't have a lot of room to play. If you don't have any formal title, people do not let you do anything. But there's another book by John Maxwell, and I think it's back there on my shelf. It's called The 360 Leader, where John Maxwell teaches you how to lead from anywhere in an organization. How to lead the people that report to you, how to lead the people who are on the same level as you, and how to lead the people that you report to. You can actually learn to lead your managers, to lead your directors, to lead everybody that you report to, because leadership is influence. And if you learn how to leverage your influence in their decision making, even if you don't have a formal title of a leader, you are actually a leader. Now, what are the best behaviors? And this is what we finish up with: the best behavior to adapt when you are on a level 3 leadership position and production, and that will help you to move to a leadership reproduction. Now, the first thing that John Maxwell says here is that understand how your personal giftedness contribute to the vision. John Maxwell said that if you are a leader, you must have a sense of vision for your leadership. And I think this is one mistake a lot of people make. A lot of people believe that in order for me to be a leader, I need to have my own organization. I need to start my own business. I need to do this and that. No. You can be a leader under somebody else's leadership. But that doesn't mean you cannot have a vision simply because you're working on somebody else's vision. No, I don't think it means that. I'll give an example. Let's say today you join a software company. The person who created the company, the vision was to help small businesses to create softwares at a favorable, cheap price, or an affordable price. Now, when you join in, that's the grand vision of the company. That's the vision of the company, the leader that had that in mind. Let's say you join in as a software engineer. You can have a goal to say, okay, in the small businesses, I want the people to use a software with as much help from the computer as possible. So you start creating this AI and you start developing an artificial intelligence that will help small business owners to just make their softwares more efficient, to make them to help them not to have to hire 200 people if they cannot afford it, and the software can actually help them do it. That can be your vision. You can join in as a quality engineer, and your vision can just be to help your developers to have less work, the minimum amount of work testing as possible by writing for them good test cases when you're creating the stories or you're discussing about the work that you're going to do. And that can be your vision as a person. So every time you join a department, every time you're given a position of leadership, think about this. What is your vision for the department that you're leading? What is your vision? Like, it can be as simple as just make the employees enjoy their work more. If your department or your company has a high turnover, you can say, okay, my vision for my department and every department I'll lead is to reduce the amount of turnovers for employees, finding out what is why are employees quitting. What is it that I can do on my level? Some stuff you cannot control. You cannot control how much PTO your company gives to the people. That's on a policy level. Yes, you can influence the people that make that policy that made the policy to change it. But if you don't have that power, what else can you do so that employees enjoy working under you? So understand your personal vision for leadership. Understand your personal giftedness to contribute to the vision. What is the gift that you have to contribute to the great vision? The Bible actually says, I think it's Solomon that says it in Proverbs, one of my favorite scriptures. It said that your gift will make room for you. The gift that you have will actually create opportunities for you wherever you want to go. So John Maxwell gives a few examples here about leadership. Say, in organization or a team, your personal contribution can be you're probably good at influencing people. Some other people are really great at connecting with people. Some other people are just great at speaking, at communicating with people. And some other people are great at creating resources that help people, or even hiring resources or writing and things of that nature. You know, and some other people are great at improving things. The Johnny Company, they just know that whatever you give them, they'll make it better. You give them some repetitive tasks, they automate it. You give them a team that's always complaining, they start creating fun and activities around the team that will help them be better. What's your personal giftedness? And I think when I was reading this book, I actually wrote some notes in it. The first time I read it wrong is that I started writing what were the things that I could do uniquely well. And every time I join a company or a department or something, I always try to reflect back on that. It's like, what is one thing that I can do exceptionally well and that can help this team move forward? And that's what I try to focus on, and that's what I try to move on. So John Maxwell says here that do what you do so well that those who see you, it's actually Walt Disney that said it. Do what you do so well that those who see you do what you do are going to come back to see you do it again and tell others that they should see you do what you do. It's an example of a comedian. If you're a comedian, you are good at your comedy. People that watch you will want to see you doing that again. And eventually they go to others and tell them that this comedian is really good at what he does. Would you like to go and see him? You see, like basketball, you see like someone like LeBron James. He's so good at what he does. Whatever team he's been on, he's so good at what he does that a lot of people go back and back to see him and tell others we should go watch the game where LeBron James or Steph Curry is playing. I'm a big fan of basketball. I don't know much about about football. Your football fan will forgive me, or soccer for that sake as well. The people that watch soccer, but we all know people that are so good at what they do that other people they invite other people to come to join them in watching them do what they do well. So the second thing that John Maxwell says here on a production level, cast vision for what needs to be accomplished. I cannot overemphasize on this. You want to be a great productive leader, make sure the vision is clear. Make sure there's a big billboard in front of everybody that defines this is what it means to win. I'm not talking about a physical board, but what I mean by that is that when you say to your team, we need to get better, what does better mean for your team? What does better mean for your organization? What does better mean for the people that are around you? Don't just say people, we need to be better. We need to do better. Better about what? I remember a company I worked for a few years ago, maybe 2 3 years ago. The company, at some point, we were working with an external IT firm, and we had a lot of loggerheads at the beginning. We had a lot of misunderstanding, and my boss that I was reporting to was always complaining there's something wrong with this company. And I was talking to the IT firm. They're always complaining. It's like you are giving us some unrealistic expectation. How are we ever going to meet those expectations? And one day I had to sit my boss and ask him. I was like, "Sir, what is it that they're doing wrong that you like them to correct?" And to be honest, for the next 20 minutes, we sat down and tried to figure out exactly what is it that he was blaming them for. And there was not a lot. And then I sat down with CEO of the IT firm that we were using at the time and asked him, I was like, what is it that you feel pressured on? And we sat down and we got to a point where we had to review the contract. There are so many things that were not defined well in the contract. So we had too many expectations that we're expecting them to do this. And for them was like, this is way beyond the scope of our work. So that could not happen until we sat down and communicated and clarified the things that were important. So you cannot tell your team you're not productive when your team doesn't even know what it means to be productive. You can't tell someone you are not doing your job when the person does not even know what it means for them to do their job. Fuzzy communication leads to unclear direction. We proceed to sloppy execution. Productive leaders create a clear link between the vision of the organization and everyday production of the team. And I just talked about that a few minutes ago. How do you take the grand vision of the organization to help make your team productive? John Maxwell says that level 3 leaders help people define the success of the vision. What does it mean to be successful? He says again that level 3 leaders help people commit to the success of the vision. Once the vision for the team or your organization has been defined, help now your team to commit to that vision. And finally, John Maxwell says that level 3 leaders help people experience success. You've helped define the vision. You've helped your team succeed in that vision. And now you help the team. The first one was that you help the team define the vision. You help the team commit to the success of the vision. And you help the team experience the vision. Without clear communication, your team will not succeed. And if you succeed, I think I'll say this without fear of being contradicted. If you succeed, you did it by luck. Because if you do not define what is the score, what is winning, then winning won't make any sense at all. The third thing that John Maxwell said, the third behavior to adopt here, John Maxwell says, begin to develop your people into a team. Production is about team winning. You can have individual winners on your team. You can have people that are performing extremely well on your team. But until people work together, until people are cooperating, until people are doing things together, you can have the best players on a team that cannot win the championship individually. Developing your individual performers into a team, I believe that's the essence of level 3 leadership. There's a story about basketball that I like when John Maxwell talks about it in another of his books. He said that at the beginning when Kobe and Shaq were playing together, they were great players individually, but they could never win a championship. It took Coach Phil, when he joined the Lakers, to help them start cooperating more as a team. It was not only there to help them become better as individuals, but it was also there to help them win as a team. So as a level 3 leader, what are the things that you can do to help your team become better? I know a lot of companies have gone into team building activities, which are great. Don't just do them because it's a company policy or because it's a fun thing to do. What are the things you actually can do to help your team win. A few things that I've seen working in the past. Eat with people. It's amazing how much chatter or conversation go on when you bring people around the same table to share a meal. Play a game together. Sometimes it's not about work, 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 work. Building a team actually takes courage. It takes initiative. You don't build a team simply by wishing you have a better team. You don't build a team by putting a lot of pressure on them. You build a team by taking initiative and by doing things that can help your team come together. And it's also important to bring the right players, especially if you're the choice to bring the right player. Building a culture. Define your culture. What is the culture of your team? What are the behaviors or the habits? Or what are the type of personality you want people to have in a team? One other thing that I always like to do when every time I'm trying to build a team, I try to do with them a personality test. Just understanding. It's not only good for the whole team to understand, okay, this person is an advocate or this person is a counselor. I'm talking about the Myers-Briggs personality test, where you just discover it's not only it's good for your whole team, but it's also good for individuals. When you read some of this stuff and you reflect, it's like, oh my God, this is so me, and you start understanding why you behave a certain way. And if other people on your team read your personality test and they know what to expect from you, it actually brings more cohesion together. And I always say that the book that I'm reading, and I've been taking a while because I wasn't feeling too well. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence actually teaches you to say the more you know about people, the more you know the way people think, the more compassion you have towards them. If you know someone was behaving the way they were behaving because they were abused as children, or because they'd gone through so much hardship, or because they're going through a certain hardship, you no longer have, the judgment or the harshness that we have sometimes with society. So it's important to spend time together if you want to build a team together. John Maxwell said that the job of a leader is to build a complementary team where every strength is made effective, and every weakness is made irrelevant. So those are the best behavior to adopt as you become a level 3 leader, to make sure that you are building a team. Again, on level 3, your goal is not only to help your team win, but it's to create a team in the first place. Is to create people that can actually cooperate and work together. Work together for the vision, work together for everything to succeed, and work together so that the team and the company around you can become better. John Maxwell gives a few more laws here that you can read in the book. Again, as we said before, we are not here to review the whole book, but we're here to talk about experiences that have been transforming and changing our lives. I personally have been working in a nonprofit organization. My church, I've been there for about 10 years now. And I've gone through the whole process of putting a team together. It's one of the most challenging things that I've done, but also one of the most enjoyable things that I've done. And I remember working in college with a few friends on some side projects, just bringing people together, especially when you have two personalities that don't match. And sometimes, in previous positions where I've been, in previous jobs where I've been in positional leadership, where you inherit a whole team, and people have different personalities. Everybody has different objectives, have different goals, have different vision. Some people come to work because they're just looking for a paycheck and move on. Some other people come to work because they believe that they are bringing purpose, they are changing the environment, they are building something greater. Some other people come to work because their parents told them that they couldn't stay at home. What is it that you can do as a leader to make all those people believe in the vision, follow the vision, and come together as a team? And bringing a team together, sometimes, as John Maxwell said, the productive leader, sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And sometimes the hard decisions may be like, you are not a good fit for this team, relocate to another team. Or the hard decisions may be like, we have to cut down our budget on trips, on traveling, so that we can hire an additional resource on our team to help us do this job and perform better. What are the hard decisions have you made as a leader? Or what are the current decisions that you're struggling with as a leader? Join us during the discussion. Join our Instagram page or join our YouTube page in the comments. Let us know what are the strategies that you use to bring teams together. And I've always believed that if you can lead a nonprofit organization, you can lead everybody in the world. Because in most nonprofits, especially when people are not held accountable to you by salary, when people do what they do simply because they want to do what they do, if you can build a team like that from scratch and make that team function, I believe you can lead any team around the world. So, what are the struggles that you have had as a leader, and what are the things that you've done to become a better productive leader? And sometimes we don't think about this level of leadership, about position, we don't think of promotions, we think more about production. So, what are the things that you are doing to help you become more productive? Ladies and gentlemen, it's with that we'll be handing today. Please again remember our friend Adam in your prayers. We hope that he will recover and we'll be together next week when he feels better. And until then, we are so excited to always have you here. Do not forget that we have a conference on leadership coming up at the end of this year. For those of you who are in the United States and live precisely here in the DFW area, we give you more details as time comes. We just want you to mark your calendars around October, November. We give you precise dates once they become available. And again, our friend Lontage Woods, Miss Lontage Woods, she's in English. She's a teacher, and she shared with us a lot of things that we are excited to share with you at the end of this season. So at the end of this season, we take about 4 weeks break as we recover and we get together and a lot of things that go on in the background. If it's your first time here, don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or even Stitcher Stitcher or Anchor, do not forget, and Spotify as well, of course, do not forget to like and subscribe so you can always have this content. We are always excited to have you here. We'll be seeing you next week as we start talking about reproduction. How do you reproduce leaders? How do you ensure that your success as a successor? Don't let your dream die simply because you cannot do it anymore. Don't let your vision die simply because you do not have time to do that. You can learn how to raise leaders, and those leaders can take over from that time on. It's with that I'll be finishing today, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure having you here again today. Thank you so much for being patient with us, and sorry again for the fact that we didn't stream yesterday on Tuesday, but we did on Wednesday. Next week we'll be back on Tuesday on our regular schedule, Central Standard Time, and we'll be seeing you then. God bless you, and you have an amazing week. Bye bye.